The recorder is on. Good start. Let's just finish this shot again. That's cool with you. Yeah. So, I'm with Brent Nichols, and we are in this mysterious marsh. We don't even know the name of this place, do we?
It's the Swamp of Mystery.
The Swamp of Mystery. That's where we're at. The Swamp of Mystery, where you are taking pictures. Yeah. So how'd you get into this, if you don't mind my asking?
I always had an interest in nature photography, but I had a point-and-shoot camera. The pictures I got were generally junk. I got a year's subscription to Masterclass, mostly because of there's some really amazing writing teachers, like people like Neil Dean and Margaret Atwood actually doing writing courses. So I signed up for that, worked my way through all the writing stuff, and then I started browsing what was left and browsing all the miscellaneous stuff. It's also world-class instructors, just less interesting to me. And I came across Jimmy Chin teaches adventure photography.
Nice.
And I had never heard of him, but he's this rock climber, and he does things like clambers up the sides of mountains along with rock climbers and snaps pictures while he's there. He goes off to distant corners of the world and gets mountaintop pictures and so on. It's a really amazing lifestyle he has.
Yeah, no.
So I looked at that and I said, I don't really want to do exactly what Jimmy Chin does. My knees are not up to it. I don't have rock climbing skills. I don't want to go talking to climbers and asking them if I can climb or whatever. I don't actually want to do exactly what he does, but I got to thinking that I wouldn't mind doing my version of what he does. And part of it is that every winter I just hate the winter. I get sulky in the autumn, and I'm just waiting for spring to come back. And I wanted something that would have me going outdoors, doing something that was interesting to me in the winter, so that I'm not just spending the whole winter wishing it was spring already. So I decided to try it. It took me a while to talk myself into it. I've got attention deficit disorder. I've got a bad habit of picking up hobbies and immediately dropping them.
Yeah.
So I bought the cheapest digital SLR I could find and the cheapest lens, and barely spent any money. And then for a year I shot pictures constantly, and I loved every minute of it. I would call it wildlife photography primarily, but in practical terms that means it's mostly bird photography. And then at the end of the first year, I decided to upgrade my equipment because my equipment was junk.
I get you. But for the first year, it was just basically, okay, let's see if I really want to do this.
So at the end of the year, I realized I've been doing this constantly for 12 months, and I've been absolutely loving it. So it would just be ridiculous for me to be stingy now and not spend some money on gear.
Yeah, no, I totally understand. As I've been doing the podcast, like more and more, my equipment's gotten better. You invest in the stuff you love, you invest in. That's just the way it is.
So, yeah, I'm appalled by how much I spent on this gear, which...
I have an idea. My dad in his early 30s was going to Calgary. He stopped and turning it into like a living, right? So he was buying these really expensive cameras. Back in the day, like, I still remember, because I'll never let me forget, he actually had a Konica, like one of those old school Konicas, which they were really good cameras. I'm inept at photography. I'm the one member of the family that doesn't do it very well. Which, considering what I'm about to do, it's kind of blows. But no, man, like photography is like really, like, you shouldn't feel bad. I mean, honestly, it's even constructive. There's some beautiful stuff out there. Like, I'm probably gonna do a few shots before we're done this, just because, wow, like, I mean, it's cool that there's places like this in the city.
Yeah, it's amazing. And I was oblivious to it for so long. I feel like I squandered a decade of not doing this.
Oh, absolutely. No, when I go to a city, because I've lived in so many different places, I always like to really explore it a little bit. You can't see everything. Like, this is the first time I've seen this, and I'm much like you. I'm like, what did I do to prepare this stuff? But there's so many treasures out there. It's really about finding the ones that are important.
Oh, there's a family of grebes. There's baby grebes. Oh.
Go take the shot. Go right ahead. I don't blame you.
I'll be right back.
Yeah, go right ahead. Ladies and gentlemen, let Brent do his thing.
You should haul your camera over here.
Yeah,
This is
I
like
probably
with
should.
babies
Yeah,
on
hold on.
their back. You
Here.
don't want to miss this.
So, where am I? Okay. So, folks, I'm.
You guys should send one of them a ride.
Yes. I'm focusing in on this, folks, so you can see what I am seeing. She's going
Just
to.
took the baby off her back so she could die.
Yeah, no, it's fun. I'm watching it. This is kind of fun. Now the baby's back on. That's hilarious. I'm not sure the mom wants her on it or not. Alrighty. Yes, folks. There's gonna be camera cuts on this one. You can tell. Now, got to adjust again.
Sit down so you can frame the shot
Yeah, pretty much.
until the next time I get distracted.
It's all good. Let's see here. How does this look? Cool.
So when you asked me where should we do this, I thought, well,
Let's do it here.
we could go to a wetland and maybe it'll be like visually interesting for the interview. But what I didn't say was, well, the problem will be keeping me in any way focused on the interview.
Well,
Words all over the place.
Well, dude, we can just talk about passion. I mean, this is for you. Like, you write for a living. Like, and honestly, I'm trying to get to that point, right? This is your hobby just for you, right? There's no financial impetus for you to do this. This is purely fun, and I think that's actually a very important thing for any creative to actually do, because I draw. I don't know if you've seen the drawings.
I've seen your drawings, yeah.
I would say I'm confident, gotten to the point of confidence with my art, right? But I'm a long way from good, but that's not what it's about. It's about me just having fun, not worrying about it, and I feel this is the same thing for you.
I periodically have people suggest maybe you should try to sell your photos or whatever, and it's just like I don't want to have this hobby that's so much fun, but it's so good for me. I don't want to turn it into work. I don't want to add layers of stress to it.
Yep.
The weird thing is, so I post my pictures on Facebook and get all kinds of messages and comments from people saying that they really enjoy it, and that's kind of what makes it worthwhile. It's weird to say that posting things on Facebook and getting people's reactions is important to me, but it's the only way that I have to share my pictures, and that's what makes it meaningful. So it's weird to say, but posting stuff on Facebook and getting reactions to it is actually a big part of my hobby. But the main thing is coming out, and essentially the process is pick a really beautiful spot, sit down with your camera, and wait to see what comes along.
Yeah.
What hobby could be better than that?
Honestly, it's also, actually, the other thing that's really good, why this is really good for you? If you have ADD, this is a good way to build the muscles for patience and to some degree concentration. Yes, that pretty bird, kind of like the old ADD joke, but okay, what we just filmed with the mom and the swimming, that doesn't happen. That's one of those moments you're there and you capture. If you're a photographer, those are what you live for. That's why you shoot hundreds, if not thousands of shots. If you shoot that much just to get one or two amazing shots, right? Capturing still life, right? So it's a good patience, it's a good discipline thing, but it's also just for you. It's not wrong with that.
You familiar with B.F. Skinner?
I'm not familiar with B.F. Skinner.
Pardon me, he's a psychologist, and he studied addiction, or he studied ways of rewarding people, and he found that if you always give the same predictable reward, then people do the absolute minimum required to get the reward. But if you give people random rewards, then they'll jump through hoops hoping to get the big reward, and that's why gambling is completely addictive.
Yeah.
Even though if you watch people in Vegas slot machines or anybody doing it on a VLT, they are miserable. They are not enjoying themselves.
Oh.
It is so sad watching people gamble, but it's completely addictive because of that unpredictable reward.
I got one gambling story actually. So I go to Windsor Casino. Okay, I go to Windsor Casino in Ontario. My grandma, this last time my grandmother was over in this is before the pandemic, and she gives me $20 to gamble because I'm not going to gamble. 5 minutes in, I win. I won like $200.
Oh,
right?
Which is the worst thing that can happen to you, really.
Well, no.
Sometimes.
I'm not. I'm not silly. I was trying to fail. The problem is when you go to a casino and you do that 5 minutes in,
Yeah.
right? You're like, well, shit. What the fuck do I do, right? And so my grandmother's I never forgot my grandmother's reaction. She popped because I won. I really legitimately won. So you gotta gamble some more. It's like, no, I don't. I don't want to. Well, okay. How about you put in another 20 bucks, 40 bucks? Again, I already won, so it's not a huge deal. Okay, 20 bucks isn't a big deal. I made that 20 bucks last an hour because I did not. I think I gambled 40 more bucks. I lost that 40. I walked away because it was like. But I was caught in that weird time of. I won it so quickly, I wanted to bail, but I couldn't bail because we just got here, right? And it was just like, oh God, okay, I gotta gamble a little bit more. So I did. I played slots. I figured them out a little bit. I kind of like, but you're right. Like that moment is what they're going for. But once you have that moment, that's the addictive thing.
Yeah.
Everything. But you're right. The rest of that process is complete and total drudgery. My problem, cards. I love playing cards. I get too aggressive. So I can't. I'm not mature enough to play poker. Because I'll start winning, I'll play good, and then I'll get really, really, really aggressive. Like I find with me, limits are good. Limits are good for me in poker. Because otherwise I will lose it all.
I love playing poker for chips. I love friendly home games with nothing on the line. I enjoy that hugely. Playing for money just stresses me out and makes me miserable. But playing for chips, I love it. Absolutely love it.
I love stacking the chips. It is so fun because all you're doing is. Now, I'll play for a little money. Like for me, if it's 10, 20 bucks, I'm not going to worry about it. Right? But if, for me, it's like, but when you're winning and you got this giant pile and you're just moving the stacks around and just watching the reaction of the rest of the table. That is I think the truth. There's too much poker is when you're playing. Yeah. What's your game when you play?
The small amount of poker that I've played is what did they do in Casino Royale that made poker trendy for several years? Yeah, Texas Hold'em.
Yeah.
Played that for a while until I ran out of friends who had the interest in playing poker.
Yeah.
So when I say I love poker, we're talking about 5 times that.
Yeah, no, it's cool. Yeah, poker.
Nobody would do it.
Well, it's unique. The problem is like the mechanics of poker. You need something a little structure. Like I said, that's why the 10, 20 bucks is fine, right? Because it's just enough money people actually play risk reward. I play tested a game last year for a client, and I got paid to do it, which is awesome. But like one of the things I noticed with the chips, like without money, it's money was all in. Whereas it's a whole decision process. That's why people play for money.
I have had that feedback from my friends when we talk about playing poker. A bunch of them say no mistakes, but the same group of people, we play strategy games regularly, and we play for nothing but the bragging rights of saying I won, or the fun of winning. And I don't understand
that on a sustained basis, I can see why that would be a struggle. It's just a game by design. You want to. It just wants to, right? So people just do it because it's the way it feels. For lack of a term, game experience. Right? What's your strategy game story?
I really like board games.
That game.
It's a neat game. I love that. I like the general genre of world domination games where that's my favorite.
So many different ways. You're like, okay, what is everybody else playing? Shit. And it's only 10 turns. That's the thing that makes that really, really tough. You're not more often than not, you're not going to win the game outright. It's just about who got the most out of it. It's just like a game also super hard.
I love diplomacy, but I rarely have the opportunity to slog for 7 hours a day. I mean, it eventually starts to really get on my nerves, but kind of get behind, it's no fun at all, but there's aspects of diplomacy that I absolutely taking somebody's side and whispering and scheming and lying through your teeth and saying, oh yeah, this will work, and never knowing who's lying to you. Diplomacy can be very, very fun.
Yeah. No, for me, I like delicate games. That's one of my favorite games. Really simple game. It's basically basically tiles with string on it. But the objective is you have a piece or you're supposed to be at edge. It's like follow pass again. Pass to. If your objective is to stay on the board, right? And if the string pushes on the board, you're out. Right? It sounds like really simple, but they're quick games. But they're really, the more people that play it, the more not everybody. Well, if you have a player you're also out, really, I like games that have but also fun stories. That's why I like it.
My friends like a bunch of games that are brunch goals, too large of scale. Or I find that I'm playing just half the board. I think that one, yeah, that one's great.
Yeah.
Well, I do love the world building, the atmosphere stuff is absolutely
Yeah.
the actual game, I find it so-so. I understand why it's so fun.
They have a shorter version, like I think it's called Horror. Well, correct me on that one. But no, I think no, it's a simplified version of the game. But no, I love world building. Like, it is one of those. I realized playing video games what's brought to the table. It looks like it's about to sound for it.
In my defense, there was no rain in the forecast.
No. It's tomorrow.
Tomorrow is supposed to rain.
Yeah.
Dry.
Yeah, well.
And I don't see any damn shelter.
No. So what do you want to do?
Maybe it could stop raining in a second. Probably not.
So we can do this one of two ways. Do you have your card here?
Yep.
Do you mind just finishing the card?
We could do that.
Yeah. Let's just do that.
Let's go with anything other than sitting here while the rain suddenly picks up.
Yep. Yes. Let me go down myself. And all right, folks. We had to move back we moved into Brent's car because just as you saw, it's going to be down for it. The video editing on this episode is going to be kind of wild because it's going to be like, so we started here, then we went here, then we went here. A lesson in let's see here, we can get more of us in here. well, it is what it is.
That's as good as it gets.
Yeah, it's as good as it gets, I think. Nope. Yeah, it's as good as it gets.
Unless we can slide it straight back.
That's close. It's close, it's close, it's close. Close enough. Close enough. I am envious of you being so tall and lanky for this particular part of the job. But we're here and we're doing our thing. So, yeah, we're talking about games. So, I'm a big video game guy, and one of the things I realized is the reason that I think video games are so popular is because it's everything we try to do in novels, right? We try to create an interactive experience. The thing is, video games in particular create truly interactive experiences, and the best ones create like a memorable impact on you. That's why, like, when we're talking like Game of Thrones feels like the show because it feels like a political intrigue, machinations. You have objectives depending on what house you are in, and it really feels, you can feel the tension in the game as you play it, and it feels so much like what the novels could have been. Do you think he ever is going to finish those?
Couldn't say.
Yeah.
I mean, I would have said a couple of years ago, I would have said yes, but it's been a couple more years with no progress, so
I mean, we got the end of the story, kind of. I'm still a little mad about that last season.
Yeah, I stopped. Game of Thrones was too bleak for me. I read the first 3 novels, and it got to a point where it was just getting horrible. One book ended with Brienne of Tarth having somebody chew a hole in her face, and that was just it. I was just done at that point. It was.
Yeah, no, I got you.
And I watched the TV show for I think 2 whole episodes, and it was. I already knew what was happening, and I knew how much it was going to suck, and I just decided to drop it. It's too damn bleak for me, and so I don't actually know how the TV show ended, although I've heard a few things like, let's just roll back all the character progress and whatever, George.
Hey, listen, you got paid. Shrug. Right? I mean, that's how you gotta look at it, right? If you're going to and also considering, I mean, I got the feeling, this is what I got the feeling with the last season, is nobody wanted to do it, but the money was just too good. That was the impression I got. It's like nobody really wanted to be here, but it's a dumb truck of money. So you don't say no to the dumb truck of money. That's my guess.
Now, I respect the artistic achievement of Game of Thrones. Absolutely.
Absolutely, no. It's
not to my tastes, but I was deeply impressed by what he did, and
he defied expectations in a way that was actually logical. It made sense. It really, I think, added a layer to what fantasy could be. Yeah. Much like you do, I do have the same tendency. It's too bleak, right? I think it's too bleak for the genre as a general rule of thumb. I could be wrong saying that, but that's just my opinion.
Clearly it worked for an awful lot of people. It was wildly successful, so I tend to think that there's nothing actually wrong with it. It's just my personal taste, because it seems very clear that what he did worked for a hell of a lot of people.
I read young adult fiction and Japanese light novels. Maybe I'm keeping things at a very, very, very simple level, but that's where I'm at in my life right now. So that's I'm good with that. Beyond that, I mean, if you don't mind my asking, how's the writing going with you?
Oh, there's a good question. So I've gotten bogged down in stuff that I feel like I'm doing this write for hire thing. It's technically not quite ghostwriting, but it's the next thing to ghostwriting for this company that they give me an outline. I write the novel with quite a bit of editorial feedback. So I'm getting near the end of that work, which is, on the one hand, it's been a growth opportunity because it takes me out of my comfort zone and it gets me writing in a way that it saves me from reaching for the same general plots and the same general events and characters that I find keep cropping up in my work. So it's been good that way. I've got editors really pushing back a lot, which has made me grow a bit as a writer, so I look at it as a good learning opportunity, but the total number of hours that it's taking me compared to what I'm being paid is got me. It isn't really not working for me. I'm not going to do this again, and I'm sick of it. So that's where I'm at lately. All my writing time has been going into this write for hire thing, which at first I looked at it. The amount of money they're offering, it seemed decent for the not princely but perfectly decent. Only it's taking far longer because I get this huge editorial pushback where they say, no, we happen to sort of visualize it differently, so we want you to change this and tweak this and modify this and on and on and on and on and on, and it turns into this massive time sink. So it's not overall working out for me, but it's getting to the end. So,
but it was a learning experience.
It was a chance to learn. I wrote some books for very small presses where the amount of money that I made was trivial, but it was a chance to work with an editor. I felt like it was, instead of me paying an editor to edit my work, it was a chance to have the editor pay me and to learn what I could learn from working with a really good editor, a chance to have that learning experience and actually get paid a small amount of money instead of me paying the editor. So I look at some of the things I do, I look at as, okay, no, this doesn't make a whole lot of economic sense, but you pay to go to school.
I'm doing like a freelance talk at When Words Collide, right? It's one of the hardest things I'm talking about is that balance of when it needs to be about the money, and when it doesn't always have to be about the money, right? Yeah. Because you work for a living, you write for a living, you have to take it seriously, you get paid for it, you have to. There are limits to what you can do. But every once in a while, from a collaboration standpoint, I'm working on a comic right now through a company, right, in the States. It's a collaboration. It's not paying me much. But the thing about it is, it's someone I've wanted to work with, right? And I can do that once or twice a year. But it can only be once or twice. So that's one of the things I've had to learn doing being a freelancer is your time is really valuable, and that's a big part of your job. I found is that people are bidding for your time. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I found I'm getting out from under this mountain of penny ante contracts that I've taken on, and there's things that I want to do, things that I think I can make pay with my own writing that I need to clear aside all this client work that I'm starting to regret taking on, where I felt like I couldn't say no. It's that any amount of guaranteed money coming in was something I needed to grab hold of, and it'd be irresponsible not to. But now I'm finding, I need to.
There's a balance. I do. I make video commercials. That's my primary thing I do for.
Just gonna crack the windows a bit.
No worries.
The worst of the rain is past.
Yes, it's still gonna be raining for a little bit, but yes.
Rain's light enough. We can let some air through.
Yes. No, it's one of those hard little balancing acts. I've had to learn in the last 3 years. My time is valuable. I have to charge. I've learned how to charge a premium for things, which is something that I think a lot of creatives don't do. Mm-hmm. But I'm also now having to learn the balance of, okay, what do I need to make money on? What's fun? And kind of find that border and boundary for myself and try not to, for me, from a collaboration standpoint, I will do no more than 2 a year. Just because I find that anything more than that kills my time. Right? Do you have hard and fast rules like that?
No, I don't have enough. It's much more loosey-goosey with me. I remember when I was a software trainer, I started out saying yes to everything.
Yeah.
And that worked. At first I needed to get myself known, and I needed to build my skill set. So I worked myself ragged, and I whatever course came up, I said, sure, yeah, absolutely, I can do that. And then went home and studied and prepped and studied and got myself ready to the point where when the day came to teach it, I actually was ready. So I did that for a long time, and it worked. I ended up being the go-to guy for a lot of companies where they said they knew that they could just call me and forget about it, which is a very good position to be in. And the list of things I could teach was very long, and so they could basically just say, well, okay, we could try this, or we could try that, or we could just call Brent and he'll do it. So that put me in a really good position for a long time. But I got to a point where eventually I said, okay, now I've got a solid list of teachable skills. There's some stuff I'm going to start dropping. I'm lousy with Microsoft Access. I don't teach it often enough to be practiced up. It doesn't tend to, I hate it. It soaks up all these hours of prep time. The course doesn't go as well as I would like. You know what? I'm just going to say I'm not teaching Access anymore. I don't need to anymore. I've got enough work with other applications and other stuff that comes up. I'm going to say, you know what? No, I'm making my Excel's my bread and butter, and there's some Word and some PowerPoint, and I don't need to take on this new thing that I've never taught before, that I've never even been approached to teach before, that I'll probably never be approached to teach again. I'm just going to say, no, I don't want to spend 30 hours prepping to teach the course and then teach it once and then never look at it again. And so I think there's, I think a lot of freelancers go through that pattern, which is a good one, which is you start off always saying yes, and then you get to a point where you eventually almost always say no.
Yep.
But you can't start out saying, no, my standards are way up here and I'm going to mostly say no, because you'll never work and you'll never learn. So you have to start out saying yes, 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 and get to a point where you say, okay,
Yeah.
now it's sustainable for me to start saying no, 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 and all of a sudden saying no becomes really important.
I'm going to push back slightly, because this is one thing I've learned. I've learned how to say no on a certain degree of price point, because one of the things I realized really early on is the more skin your client has in the game, the more they'll work with you. Right? And I realized this really, really early. Now, I'm with you. Like, you don't always have the same opportunities to say no, especially in the beginning. But what I've learned is I do a little balancing act with, depending on my client, right? This is when I realized to walk away from a client. Is the client appreciating what I'm doing for them? If the answer is no, because I look at it based on what they're paying me, their investment, and just certain little telltale signs, I'll walk. Like, I will walk from certain clients if I find those standards aren't met. I don't say no. I don't say necessarily no to a job. What I do say, though, is, okay, it has to be to some degree worth my while, right? And it also has to be, I know I'm getting, there's a certain degree of respect, for lack of a better word, that has to come from the client at all times. It doesn't necessarily have to be the top dollar, but it has to be how you treat the people.
Yeah.
There's a balance there.
Yeah, if you make them pay a lot, then you know that they value you and you're going to get treated like they value you. Yeah, the thing about the teaching thing is that there was sort of a standard industry daily rate, and so the money issue didn't come into it. Nobody was offering me lousy pay for the teaching, and so I could just say, do I want to do it or not, because the pay isn't going to change.
Because otherwise I agree with you, right?
Yeah, every other kind of all my other clients, it's like, I needed to have held to them. I needed to have had a higher standard and said, no, doesn't pay me enough to be worth my money, to be worth my time.
Yeah, that's what it comes like. That's the thing. Like, that was the very first lesson I learned actually doing freelancing, is the more the skin in the game from the client is going to determine how much they value you. And I think it's one of the most important lessons I've learned doing this. So I try to do. I'm trying to approach the quality over quantity of clients at this point, because it's just saner. It's saner.
I talked to a private investigator once who said his firm was having a terrible time with crummy clients. They paid late, they complained, they wanted so much. They all wanted a champagne investigation on a beer budget, was how he phrased it. What the company finally did, they doubled their rates.
Yep.
That was the only change they made. They doubled their rates, and what they found was they had the same number of clients, but they had clients who paid promptly and gave them no grief and said, wow, that's great, thank you very much at the end, and paid immediately and didn't give them any headaches. And all they did, the only change they made was they doubled their rates, and their headaches plummeted, and they had just as many clients. It's bizarre.
I raised my rates in my advertising business. I went from $600 to $1,000. I got more clients.
Huh.
I did right.
It's weird how that works.
Because it's the psychology of price.
Yeah,
It's
the perception. I don't want $600 worth of
Yeah.
advertising. I want $1,000 worth of advertising.
Yeah, absolutely, right. And I mean, now with authors, the hilarious part is you're like, they need to advertise, and they're like, well, I don't want to advertise, and it causes this nice little like, how do I put this, feedback loop. Why don't my books sell? Because you don't advertise. But I don't want to advertise. Here we go. It's like circle, circle, circle. But one of the things I've learned, like, no, I raised my rates. I actually am debating about raising them again, because if I got that result raising it to here, what happens if I raise them just a little bit more? Right? And folks, it sounds really strange, but it's the truth. I've had clients from Europe, and this, like, my clients have been primarily from Europe and the States for the advertising, but yeah, it's been like, okay, it's like, how did that work? And same thing, like when I produce shows for people, right? I've done that for a couple different. I've done it for companies. I'm doing it for a client right now. When I'm done this job for the client, I'm raising the rates there too, because I've learned just the amount of work, hours, and effort. It's just like, again, these are things that you learn. This is part of your education on the job. You learn by doing. You don't learn from, right? You learn by doing. You learn by proving yourself, and it's a very much a process. Don't disagree?
Nope, not at all.
Yeah. So, actually, do you do other services besides writing at this point?
Yeah, I've been doing cover design and book layout and all the stuff that I had to do for myself as a self-published writer. I now do on occasion for other people. I'm not really pursuing clients, but there's people who know that I have these skills and call me up sometimes. So I've reached a point where I'm no longer looking for business, but I do have. I got past clients who will reach out to me and say, can you do this?
Yep.
So I'm happy to do it. I like collaborating with my friends. It tends to be for small amounts of money because I know these people, and I know generally, like, I've got friends who I know that their book I've got some idea of how much their book is going to earn. I don't want them to pay me more than they're going to ever make from their book. It's like, and I get a huge amount of satisfaction. And it's different for, if it was some large corporation, I would say, yeah, here's what it would take for me to be interested in doing this amount, going through this amount of bother.
Yeah.
That's something else. But collaborating with a friend, that can be, like, one thing that I do for free is beta reading.
Yeah.
I will happily read other people's manuscripts and give them feedback that really, it ought to cost $1,000 or so. I'm a good book doctor,
Yes.
but I can't be bothered to try to build a business as a book doctor. And I find, as I look back over the last few years, some of my fondest memories are of some of the book analysis work that I've done that has enriched things for. I get a huge. I'm just going to turn your window back up because I see you're getting your arm right splashed.
No, it's all good.
So, for example, I'm despite having this sense that I've taken on too much and I need to do less unless it's really well paid, I'm currently doing a beta read for a friend of mine for nothing, because I find that so satisfying.
Yeah.
And because it's a friend, and of course I'm going to help out a friend, and if it's something that I enjoy, yeah, I'm going to do something that I enjoy to help out a friend, even though somebody else would do this for a large fee. Well, I know that this book is not going to bring in the dividends to pay a professional editor, so I will do the beta reading, I'll do the editing, and I'll find that hugely satisfying.
Yeah, no, that's cool. I should actually probably send you. I sent you a manuscript a few years back.
I remember, yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely improved since you last saw it. I learned I applied a tool that I should have applied years ago. So I had one of my beta readers, basically, I'm about halfway through the novel now, right? I sent it to one of my beta readers. She devoured the whole damn thing in a night. So I'm like, I think I got something there. Thanks.
Cool.
Yeah. So.
Writing is hard. Writing is, to a huge degree, I think there's nothing else for it but to just invest time and more time. It's like there's people early in their writing process, they write stuff that cannot be salvaged. You cannot get the feedback you need to make it, to fix it, because you can't do that. It's you cannot give somebody who can't draw, you can't spend 3 hours with them and turn out a professional quality illustration if they don't have the drafting skills. It simply takes a long time, and writing is like that. And sometimes you just gotta say, okay, we can take your manuscript with a lot of work and a lot of feedback, we can take it from way down here to slightly higher, but you just got to go spend a couple of years writing before you're going to hit something that's professional quality.
Well, I find it's understanding the actual importance of details. Because for example, when I started writing, I had like this big idea in my head. I'd put it down. Okay, now the big idea in the head. Now here's the thing. How do I want to tell the story? It's like one of the most important things. Do I want it to be funny, curious, whatever? And then I got to the point where it's like, okay, how do I maximize this feeling I'm trying to create in the book? Like, how do I do it? And it's about, okay, how do I play? It's almost like you're building a roller coaster, right? You're building up. I like wooden roller coasters. It's just a personal preference, but then it goes down, up, and a little bit around. It just does its thing. And what happens is, right, if you do it right, everybody gets a very satisfying experience reading the book. Like I said, my beta reader devoured like the first 15 chapters like that. It was like, damn, that was like 40,000 words. It was like, you did that in a night. Okay, so that's awesome. But the thing is, it took me a long time to figure out the specifics I needed to ask. I think art is all about details. Like, more specifically, what do you care about? How do you want to tell it? And because I think no matter what book we write, we're writing our own stories. Something this is one of these epiphany moments I've had. And our jobs are to take out those aspects of ourselves and put those in the books in a way that, okay, yeah, you can use all the tropes and genre stuff you want, but there's a little bit of you that comes out in the book, and that's the part that people will connect to.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. That took me years to figure out.
Yeah, it's one of those things you can tell a new writer that, but it takes a long time for them to get it, even if they believe you when you say it. To really translate that into the actual words on the page it just takes context, and the context requires writing.
Yeah, like I said, I almost think I'm good. Well, I think I'm actually, for me, I'm going to, for this particular book, I want to do it on Kickstarter. I'm actually I'm going to be on, this is going on Patreon, like that's where this initially is going to go, and then eventually this goes, and the editing on this is going to be quite interesting, let me tell you, considering where we started and everything else. But the thing about it is, it's starting on Patreon. I'm going to do bonus for them. I'm going to do a Kickstarter bonus for them, because again, the other thing I've noticed about the industry and where it's going and in one sense, I think one of the big things about the pandemic is it kind of brought back the value of dealing directly with your customers. Because one of the things we realized, all these platforms and stuff like that could disappear like that one day. So I think we're still in that phase. So I'm trying to create kind of my own direct service, my direct subscription, for lack of a better term, because it makes sense to me. Even if, let's say, Amazon blows up or Going Wide blows up or whatever the case may be, right? I've learned that, right, it's good to have that solid foundation of that direct access, because only then do I think you're, for lack of a better term, secure. Yeah.
It's scary how the foundations for a business can vanish.
Yeah, like that, right? So you gotta kind of build your own fundamentals, right? And like it or not, we're a business. Yeah. So, before we wrap up, so yeah, now that your work for hire stuff's done, are you going to go back to?
Yeah, so I've got 2 other irons in the fire. I mean, I'm constantly fighting the impulse to go in 10 directions at once. It's just my personal perpetual battle. So I'm working on my Green Zone War military science fiction series. There was a long hiatus, but I just released book 6 in the series a couple of months ago, and so there's going to be. I need to conclude that series, and it's I say I need to. I get to. It's a fun series that I really enjoy. So that's one thing that I have that's ahead of me, is working on that series, and then I'm also looking at. I wrote a domestic thriller that turned out quite well, in all modesty, and I want to look at writing 1 or 2 more books like that. I want to have. I don't want to release a book and have it be the only thing in that genre that I've got. In case it sells really well, there's nowhere else to direct readers to. So I want to have at least 2 books to release roughly together, so that if somebody is really excited about one book, they've got something else they can pick up immediately. It seems wasteful to not do it that way, just in case it takes off. So I want to work on my second domestic thriller. I've got some ideas that feel fairly strong to me, and then release both of those books. So that's the 2 things. Like, I've got this quite solid manuscript that's just sitting there because I don't want to release it prematurely. So that's the 2 things that are coming up next on the agenda.
Okay. So, which do you like more?
Which of your parents or which of your kids do you like more? I don't know.
Sarah, I think it's Pratt now, not Johnson, right? She sometimes jokes with me, like, sometimes you like one kid more than the other in the moment.
Yeah,
right?
you don't admit to it, but yeah.
Yeah, you do. Like it changes. It doesn't. It's not always. She says it's a very fluid thing. You love them all, but there are moments where one's your favorite, and you're just like, okay, that's an honest. That is probably the most honest thing. One of the most honest things I've heard from her, and it's just like,
not that she's one to mince words.
Oh no, she doesn't. No, she doesn't mince words at all. But I thought that, like, that was a very candid, honest look at parenting in a way I've never heard before. Right? Most parents go, "Oh, I love both my children equally," and she's like, "No, I do, but sometimes."
Well, everybody knows that you have a favorite child, and everybody knows that you can never admit that.
Yes.
It's an absolute rule. Anyhow, my heart's in science fiction adventure is where my heart is. So, that's if I had to pick a favorite, it would be the military science fiction.
Okay. So, I'm gonna go tell tales out of school. Brent actually gave me some really cool, like, pulps books. I'm actually very curious. Do you think? I have a theory, kind of sort of, that we've kind of gone with the way books have kind of gone in the last little bit. We're almost, in one sense, I kind of feel like there's room for almost kind of like a pulp, not like a pulp like style, but a pulp presentation with all the books now. Because I think I've noticed that there's a lot more shorter books now than there used to be. Right, with the Kindle Vellas, with all that other stuff. Like, do you think in one sense we've kind of gone full circle, in the sense that, like, remember the old, like, Doc Savage's Tarzans? They're short novels. They're very short novels. We've almost kind of gone back to that, I think, in some ways.
Okay, here's my take. Here's my somewhat arbitrary take on it.
Yeah.
I think that to a very large degree, the market niche taken by the pulps in the 20s and 30s is now occupied by television.
Yes.
I think that is our lowest common denominator mass entertainment to a large degree. I think that the people who primarily were buying the pulps back in the day aren't buying books now. I think they're watching TV.
Yep.
I think that the only reason they were reading books then was because that was the easiest to consume entertainment that was available, and now there's something even easier to consume, which is television. That's my take on it. I think that to a large degree, at the same time, to some extent, just within the realm of books, I think that self-publishing has kind of been the equivalent of the pulp boom of 100 years ago, because you've got stuff that the pulps of 100 years ago, they're not good enough for modern publishers. You know, there's a lot of problems with those stories. There's a lot of issues with a lot of those stories. There's some really great stuff in there, but to a large degree, it's very undiscerning, and it wouldn't pass muster with most modern publishers. And what we've got now is self-published books that have a lot of brilliant elements and are very entertaining and grab their audience, but would never ever find a traditional publisher.
Yeah.
Stuff that has a voracious, enthusiastic readership, stuff that really does have many strengths and a lot going for it, stuff that does not fit what a modern traditional publisher would ever buy. Billionaire romance, werewolf, whatever. There's all these different niches where there's writers who are readers in that niche, who understand that niche, understand the readers. They're writing stuff that a traditional publisher would turn their nose up at, even though it is feeding that precise niche audience in a way that they absolutely love, and the books are selling really well, and people are loving them. So to some degree, modern self-published novels are filling that same market niche that the pulps filled back then, where it's not good enough for the slick magazines, but it's good enough for an awful lot of people to pick it up for a nickel or a dime. So we got that now with self-published books. I think that now, from what I've seen with looking at K-Lytics, which does market analysis of what really is selling on Amazon and what isn't, short fiction is not selling outside of erotica. It just isn't. It really isn't. If your choice is to write one novel of 100,000 words or 10 short stories of 10,000 words, your 10 short stories will not. In the vast majority of cases, your 10 short stories all put together will sell significantly less than your one novel. It's just, you get the impression that there's more short stories out there, but the sales are not there they really are not there for short works. If you look at exactly what is and isn't selling on Amazon, short works do not sell. They really don't sell. There are exceptions, yes.
Yeah.
But generally speaking, the overall market trend is absolutely unmistakable. The short works don't sell outside of erotica.
Yeah. No, it's fair. I want to get your take on it, because you've done very well for yourself, like carving your own niche and doing out some other things, right? And so you have a definite insight that even someone like me, who interviewed tons of people, you know. So very cool. Do you think publishing is decentralized?
Yes. That's the short answer.
Yes.
I mean, compared to like traditional publishing of 15 years ago?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Absolutely. And it's, Amazon gave us a way to just skip the middleman and have a much more direct, Amazon is a middleman, but really to a very large degree, yeah, you've got a much more direct author-reader connection, and authors writing directly for that niche market without having to persuade an editor that it's the way to go.
Yeah. Not to say that again. I don't know. I'm weird because I think the big traditional houses, I think like the middle traditional houses are still thriving, are doing wonderful stuff. I don't know, but again, I will just say this to the traditional publishing, like it's a model that works. There's an audience they're reaching still. Yep. So you can't fault whatever choices they're making too. They're doing what's best for them, and the authors are doing what's best for themselves too. So, and for everybody that's a little bit different. So,
yeah, I'm not a self-publishing evangelist. Like, there's people who are deeply emotionally invested in the idea of how awful traditional publishing is and what ridiculous dinosaurs they are, and I'm not in that camp. But certainly I've had a lot of success at self-publishing.
Well, yeah, no, it's what I mean, you don't need to be an evangelist. It's just like, it's understand. I think this is just where I sit at this. I don't have any illusions with any of the options. I consider Kickstarter a slightly different option than traditional indie because it's a different audience.
Yeah.
Right. It's a different audience. So it doesn't work quite the same way. But whatever you choose, everything has its pros and its cons. Traditional publishing has its pros and its cons, right? There's some good things that come from it. There's some great books that are done all over the place. They're wonderful. At the same time, it may not be what you expect it to be when you're there. Indie publishing is the same way. You do it yourself. There's a lot of freedom there, but there's also a lot of work there, right? There's pros and there's cons. Kickstarter, same thing. It's a subscription model, for lack of a better term, right? Right, appealing to a collector's audience. So the pros are, it's a very dedicated audience. The cons are, if you have nothing they're interested in, you're never going to get funded. So I just think today that you have to be aware of the options that exist, but you also have to, I don't think you necessarily want to be an
I
evangelist.
think your lens may be fogging a bit, so I'm going to reopen your window.
Yeah.
I know I keep interrupting you to open the window.
No, it's all good. I'm fine with it. I'm really, really fine with it.
We're looking a bit misty in here.
Yes, and it was raining, and
I'm hoping that the fog is on the screen we're looking at and not on the lens. So if the fog's on the screen, then the audience has no idea what I'm going on about.
Yeah.
If the fog's on the lens, then they're like, whatever. Yeah, finally you noticed.
Yeah, no, folks, it literally, we expected dry weather. We expected
baking sun.
Yes.
Anyhow.
Yeah. No.
Okay, that's better.
Yeah. Live in the air. No, I just think from an author standpoint, it is what it is. There's nothing, again, whatever choice you make, this is where I'm at. It's like whatever choice you make is your choice. But be honest about what you want, what you're hoping to get out of wherever you choose to go. And be honest with yourself whether or not you're getting those things. And if you do that, there's no wrong path.
Words to close on.
Yes, they are. You should plug. Okay, so you got to plug what you just released. You should do that and how people can find you.
All right, so if you want to look for good military science fiction, I write under the pen name Jake Elwood. The Green Zone War series is currently at 6 books and probably 3 more books coming. And I'm picking up the pace a bit. There was a huge gap after book 5, but picking up the pace now with from book 6 onwards. So look for that. That's currently exclusive to Amazon. If you're a writer, look for Writing Better Fiction, edited by Brent Nichols. That's a fundraiser for the annual short story contest. If you're a kid and you live in Alberta or the Northwest Territories, enter the In Places Between annual short story contest.
All right, and that will do it for this episode of Just Joshing on Patreon. This will eventually hit YouTube as well. For everybody watching, everybody listening, thank you for watching, thank you for listening. Stay inspired, keep shining in the dark. I'll see you guys next time.